Good morning, all. So, in the last class, we began discussing VR. I'll quickly recap what we did in the last class and then proceed. So, I shared a zip file on OneDrive. You're supposed to download that zip file and unzip it, and then come to Unity Hub, click on Add, and click on the unzipped file. Inside that there is a folder called VR room. Click on that and open it. Okay, it will ask you to open with the existing version. That will come only for a split second, so you have to sort of do it quickly. So let's do it again. Again I missed it one last time. Yeah, you need not install Visual Studio. You already have it, so you need not install it separately. You can select Android build support. So I'm not installing any of those right now. We can install them later as well. Okay. Yeah. So this is just showing a warning sign. Ignore that. There is no issue. As long as you have 2022.3, that is fine. After that, whatever sub version you have, it doesn't matter. So, okay. Yeah. So change version. Continue. So it will take a couple of minutes. Yeah. Now you have to load the scene. Okay. So I'll just rename it. Okay, and load it. So when you load it, you will not really see much difference in the scene view, but here you will see a lot of new things. So all these things are by default present in a VR project. So you will see something called XR rig, right? And you will see input action manager, XR interaction manager, directional light, and all these things, out of which XR rig is the most important thing. So like I said earlier, XR rig consists of three things: main camera, left hand controller, and right hand controller. I'm trying to get the actual VR headset. We'll see. I will show you. Did any of you actually use VR headset? Only you, no others. Okay, but as the images show, as I showed you last time, it looks like this, right? So you have a headset and two controllers. Yeah, and so So let me look for some image where the controllers are more visible. So each of these controllers have buttons on them. Yeah. So you see each of these controllers have buttons on them. So you have two controllers, right hand, left hand, and each controller has some 4 or 5 buttons and a joystick kind of a thing as well. Okay. So this is how you play all those different kinds of games like badminton, golf, all those things. It basically tracks the movement of the controller, not your hand as such, the controller. Okay. But mixed reality headsets, they track the movement of your hand itself. Okay. They don't need a controller separately. All right. So you have headset, you have left hand controller, right hand controller, and all these things are sort of grouped together into something called XR rig. So this main camera is what we will see in our display when we start the game view. Okay. So it is basically, you can also think of it as the head mounted display's position. So as your head moves, the camera moves. Okay. That's why this, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that is one thing. And another thing which we discussed last time is we discussed degrees of freedom. Do you remember how many degrees of freedom are there? Yeah, 6. What are they? Why 6? Yeah, we have 3 axes. Along each of these 3 axes, we can perform 2 kinds of actions, translation and rotation. So you can translate along 3 axes, so that is 3 degrees of freedom, plus you can rotate along 3 axes, that is another 3 degrees of freedom. So total 6 degrees of freedom. Okay. So here you can see this tracking type, rotation and position, rotation only, position only. So suppose you want to capture all the 6 degrees of freedom of your headset or left controller or right controller, you can select whether you want to capture all 6 degrees of freedom or only 3 degrees of freedom. If you want to capture both translation and rotation, or if you want to capture only translation or only rotation. Okay, so that you can select here. So there are a lot of inbuilt things, a lot of options that are readily available when you are doing a VR project. A lot of different kinds of actions that are listed for you. You just have to choose which trigger will, which event will trigger which action. Okay, you have a list of triggers, you have a list of actions. You just need to map triggers to actions. Okay, that's the maximum part in VR project. The rest is just getting acquainted with the, what all different kinds of triggers you have, actions you have. And scene wise, it is very similar to any normal game you develop. You build a scene, you use some existing 3D models, you add some actions. Here most of the action happens from your side. The objects themselves, I mean, mostly you don't have objects themselves acting in VR projects because you are the actor. You as an actor are a player in that scene. Okay, and the objects respond to your actions. So that's done that way. But you can always build any kind of VR game as you want, like any normal game also. Okay. All right. Now let's add some objects to this scene. So let's look at, okay, let me switch to 2-column layout. In course library, click on prefabs and rooms. So there are 3 different kinds of rooms. You can preview them on the right side. So you have a kind of modern architecture kind of room, and some old rustic kind of room, and some traditional kind of room. We can choose any of these. We'll go with the modern type of room. So just drag it into the hierarchy panel, okay, and it will place it at the center of the scene automatically. And after that, delete the plane below that. That's not necessary for this particular scene. So just delete that. So you can just zoom into the room by clicking F. So it's a basic simple room with 3 walls and a glass wall. Okay. When you are viewing it from any particular wall angle from outside, that wall is invisible. That's only in your view, but that wall is there. It's just to make your view more clear. Okay. Now, if you are looking through these glass walls, it's like you are looking into infinity. There's nothing outside. So let's add some environment as well. Okay, now again go to prefabs, environments, and here you have foregrounds as well as backgrounds. So foregrounds are like 2 different kinds of foregrounds, that is hills and buildings. Okay. Since this is a modern kind of room, hills don't suit, buildings will suit. So just add foreground. Again, drag this also into the hierarchy panel. So this will automatically add them at the right position. So you see, now this room is sort of placed in between some buildings. It is like as if this room is part of an apartment at some top floor. Okay. So when you zoom into the room, it's like through your window you are looking at the landscape. Okay. Now we need to add a background as well. That is beyond these buildings also there is something. I mean, you should see some horizon, right? So again there are 2 kinds of backgrounds. One is for mountains, hills kind of things, the outline of hills, etc. Another is like the outline of buildings. Okay, so we will use the buildings outline. So drag this background also into the hierarchy panel. Now you see as if there are some more buildings much far in the horizon. Okay, so you get a sense that there are buildings all the way. Okay, you can also add hills if you want. That will look slightly different. So I can say delete this and say I can add the hills background. So now you see it's as if the entire city is surrounded by hills. Right? So that's how it's looking. So you can keep anything you want, any background, any foreground. Now one more thing we want to ensure is that we don't want to disturb this these environment objects, right? We don't want to change them. We don't want the user to edit them or click on them or delete them. We don't want the user to do any of those things. So we basically want to make them unclickable, right? So a simple way of doing it is in the hierarchy panel, when you hover over the game object, you will see 2 symbols on the left, an eye symbol as well as a hand symbol. Eye symbol, it is obvious, that is you can make it visible as well as invisible. So if you click on the eye symbol, that object becomes visible and invisible. Okay, we want to keep these objects visible, but we don't want them to be editable. We don't want them to be clickable. So the next icon, the hand icon, if you click on that, it will toggle the clickability. That is, now the user cannot click on them. I mean, yeah. So if you click on the buildings, now nothing is happening. Okay. But if I toggle it again and if I click on the buildings, they are being selected. Okay. So I don't want that. So I want the buildings to be non-clickable, so that the user doesn't touch them, doesn't edit them. Similarly, I don't want the background hills also to be clickable, so I will make them also non-clickable by clicking on this hand icon. Okay. Now only the room and its environment is clickable. The outside buildings as well as the farther mountains, those are non-clickable. Now the user cannot click on them. Okay. So whenever in the game, say if you want to make something non-clickable, you can do that. Say suppose you are in some car race, there are walls on both sides. You don't want those walls to be clickable by the user, so make them non-clickable using this clicking this hand icon. Okay. So usually in your game you want the player to be able to edit or control only a few elements, few objects in the game. So except those objects, make all the other objects non-clickable. Okay. All right. Now let's go back to the room. Let's change this sunlight. Let's make use of this glass pane, and let's make it look as if the light is falling through the glass. Right now the light is falling from the cracks through these walls. Let's change the outside light. Imagine there is a sun outside, okay, and light is falling into the room. So let's change the direction of the sun. So all you need to do is select this directional light. Okay. And you see it's as if the sun is shining from this direction. You can even see the sun. You can just move it in that direction and you see there is a light there. So that is sort of the virtual sun. Okay. And light is coming from that direction. So you can change the direction of this virtual sun. So this directional light you can change. So all you need to do is so click on this rotate, okay, and change the light so that it looks as if the light is falling through the windows. Okay. Now it's better. You can rotate it in whichever angle you want. All right. So just change it to give you a feel, to make use of this glass wall. Okay. Now it looks more natural and more realistic. So all we had to do was click on directional light. You can zoom out in case you are unable to see it, and click on rotate and rotate the directional light. Now you see the position of the sun also changes according to this directional light. Now you see sun is this side. Earlier sun was the opposite side. Now sun is this side because we changed the position of the sun. Okay. All right. Okay, now we created a basic room. Now we want to sort of simulate how the room looks in VR view. Okay, so suppose if you wear a VR headset, how will it look? So since we don't have the headset, and even if you have headset, you can't every time for every change you make, you can't keep wearing the headset and test it. it's easier to test it in a simulator. Okay, so we will add a simulator, XR simulator, to see how the room will look when you wear the VR headset. Okay, so in the assets, click on samples, XR interaction toolkit, and then XR device simulator. Okay, so in case you are unable to see their full names, one way is here, instead of 2-column layout, you select 1-column layout. Okay, and here you will see their names, XR device simulator. So in samples, XR interaction toolkit, then 2.5.2, then XR device simulator folder, then there is a prefab called XR device simulator. Okay, drag it into the hierarchy panel. All right, so now you have the simulator with you. Okay, now all you need to do is click play. So once you click play, it will use the simulator to simulate the game view. Okay, got it? In project window, so let me come out. In project window, under assets folder, you have samples folder in which you have XR interaction toolkit and so on, subfolders, XR device simulator. In XR device simulator, you have many objects, out of which you have one particular prefab called XR device simulator that looks different, that looks blue, as a blue cube. So select that and drag it into the hierarchy panel. Okay. Once you drag it, you can click play button. Okay, so these two are your controllers. Now before I show them, let me just come out once. Okay, now you see all these three things, main camera, left hand controller, right hand controller, these are grouped under camera offset. Now if you notice, this camera offset's coordinates, that is, it is at a slight height from the ground. Okay, XR rig itself is at the origin 0, 0, 0. Okay, but this camera offset is slightly above the ground. That is because our head is slightly above the ground, right? So this camera offset is actually taking the position of your head. Okay, so but if you look at the main camera, left hand controller and right hand controller, their coordinates are again 0, 0, 0. What does this mean? Can anyone tell me? So are we going back to the ground position? 0, 0, 0 is the ground, the floor. Okay, this camera offset is slightly above the floor, and then main camera, left hand controller, right hand controller are again at 0, 0, 0. So what does this mean? I told you earlier, absolute position versus relative position. You see, this 0, 0, 0 is relative to the camera offset frame of reference. Okay, so imagine XR rig is on the floor and then camera offset is slightly above. Now with respect to this camera offset, all the three objects, camera, main camera, left hand controller and right hand controller, are at 0, 0, 0, which means with respect to this frame of reference, they are at 0, 0, 0, which means they are at this height only. Their absolute height is whatever is the height of the camera offset. Okay, but with respect to the camera offset, they are at relatively zero position. Okay, so whenever you have child objects, whatever their position is, whatever their orientation is, it is not the absolute position or orientation. It is only the relative position or orientation with their immediate parent. Okay, with respect to their immediate parent, that is camera offset, they are at origin position, but that camera offset itself is at a height. Okay, so that's why these are at 0, 0, 0. It does not mean they are actually mapping onto the original floor. They are just mapping onto the camera offset. Okay, so you are at a height. XR rig is at origin, but this XR rig is nothing but this group of all these three things. Okay, they are again further grouped into camera offset. This entire camera offset will move whenever you are moving. Okay, so now when we click play, you are at some height. You are not touching the floor. Now suppose if I change the coordinates of this camera offset. Okay, so let me copy this and keep, and let me change its coordinates. Okay, now you see the camera is half into the floor. You see this? Let me undo it. I'll again change it to 0. You see the camera is half into the floor. Okay, because the origin is on the floor. Earlier the camera was not exactly on the origin, it is at a slight height. Now let's keep it like this. Now if I click play, what do you think will happen? Where will, how will our view be? It's not exactly the floor view, it's at the height of the floor. It's coinciding with the floor. Our view will be coinciding with the floor. You see, now it is like there is half the room above and half empty space below. It's because below the floor there is nothing. Okay, so you are exactly coinciding with the floor. So only if you move up or down, you will understand. Actually, here we cannot move up or down because you are basically walking. When you are walking, you just move left, right, front, back, only these things. So, but I hope you understand the difference in the view. It's because the entire camera offset is coinciding with the floor, and hence you are also coinciding with the floor. But that is not natural. So initially the camera offset is slightly above the floor. Okay, so let me come out of this and change the camera offset's position back to its original value. Okay, so now the camera is at a height, which means our view is at a height. Okay, yeah, now we are at a height. Now you can see the floor below you. Okay, earlier you could not see the floor because you were coinciding with the floor. All right, now because this is a simulator, we just need to use keyboard and mouse to control our movement. But if we actually have VR headset, we can use the the HMD, that is head mounted display, as well as the left and right hand controllers and their buttons to control these whatever virtual controllers that we are seeing. Okay, but since we don't have them, we have to use some shortcuts, and you can see the shortcuts on your screen. You will need some practice to memorize these shortcuts, right? So basically by default it is on HMD, that is the head mounted display, that is your eye view. Okay, so if you just rotate your mouse, it's like your eye view will rotate, so you can keep going left to rotate around the room. Okay, left or right, whatever it is. You can look up, look down. Okay, so your entire XR rig is rotating. Basically, the entire camera offset is rotating, not only your head but also the controllers, okay, by just moving the mouse left or right. All right, if you want to move only the head, you right click and move. It's difficult with the trackpad. Yeah, you right click and move. So now only the head is moving. The controllers are remaining where they are. Okay. In the earlier case, you're just moving your mouse and everything is moving. Both the controllers are also moving along with the HMD. Okay. And you can toggle between the HMD as well as left controller by pressing T. Okay, so if I press T, I have shifted to my left controller. Now when I move my mouse, my left controller's pointer is moving. Okay. Similarly, I can toggle to my right controller by pressing Y. Now if I move my mouse, my right controller's pointer is moving. Okay. Or now you can again press Y to switch to HMD. Okay, so you can press Y to switch between HMD and right controller. You can keep pressing Y to switch between these two. You can keep pressing T to switch between left controller and HMD. Okay, now say instead of switching between HMD and the controllers, while being in HMD itself, you can control left controller by pressing shift. Okay, it's like temporary switch. I should hold shift and then control the left controller. Or while in HMD itself, I can control the right controller by pressing space. But I need to keep holding space. In case you don't want to keep holding a button, just directly fully switch to a controller, press T to switch to left controller, press Y to switch to right controller. Okay. All right. So you need to practice a bit. You can take the help of this chart, that small chart that has come over, the keyboard shortcuts and the mouse shortcuts, all those things. Okay. And then you can press right click or double click on trackpad to move. Okay. To move only the head mounted display, and so on. You can zoom in or out by scrolling the mouse wheel or scrolling over the trackpad. So it is better to have a mouse with scroll wheel, okay, because you can also click that wheel to perform some more actions. So you are slightly limited. If you have only trackpad, you are slightly limited. If you have a mouse with scroll wheel, you can do almost everything. But still it is complicated because you have three devices: your head mounted display, left controller, right controller, and each of these three devices you have 6 degrees of freedom, right? So to simulate all these things just over keyboard and mouse is still hectic. You need to memorize a lot of things and it's not natural. Okay, so practice a bit with these things just to get a feel of how to control them. Okay, all right. Now, but when you are actually using the headset, you should uncheck this XR device simulator. Okay, suppose you have this XR device simulator in your hierarchy panel and you also have attached your VR headset to the Unity project. Then if you click play, it does not understand whether to use the simulator or your headset. So if you want to use your headset, uncheck this XR device simulator, okay, or delete it from the hierarchy panel. Only when you don't have the headset, you should use the device simulator. Okay. Now you can connect your headset to this in two ways. You can actually look at this through your headset in two ways. One is you actually connect your headset through a wire to Unity, and then click the play button. It will run in your headset. That is one way. Another way is you completely export this project into an app and install that app in your headset. Then you don't need to connect your headset to the computer or Unity. You just play it like any game, click it like any app, and view it like any game. Okay, these are the two ways. Usually when in development mode, we use the first method. You keep the headset connected to the computer, and whatever changes you are making, see it in your headset. That's what we usually do. Or you just check it in the device simulator. Okay, so that's what is done usually. All right. What else? Okay. Um, then the next step is locomotion. That is, how do you move around in VR space? You see, when we wear VR headset, it depends on the kind of game or environment or scene that you want to experience, right? Suppose if you are in some, say, roller coaster simulator, you don't really need to move anywhere, right? You just sit there, and whatever view you are seeing, that view is constantly updated, right? So you need not actually move. It need not track your physical motion. All right. But suppose you are walking through some building, you are walking through maybe some museum, or say our university campus or whatever. Now, how does it understand that you are walking? Either you actually physically walk and it updates the camera position accordingly, right? Or maybe you keep moving the joystick and make the scene change. You are not physically moving, but you want to move forward. So instead of you physically moving, you use some input. Maybe you use a joystick and you keep moving that joystick forward, and it's as if you are moving forward and that space is coming closer, right? These are two ways in which you can move. The first way seems more natural, but you can have many limitations for the first way. Suppose if I am a parent and I want to explore MU campus. MU campus is so big. For me to actually explore MU campus sitting at my home is not that big, right? Or I may be sitting in a room. So for me to walk from that end to this end, it's a huge space. I don't have so much space in my room. Then what to do, right? So I cannot physically walk every time while exploring large spaces, right? The virtual space is very large, but my actual physical space is very small. So I can't walk in my physical space. It will only go to that much distance in the virtual space. So I can't go further, right? So the second method, that is, I won't move. I'll just move the joystick or something like that, and the space around me, the virtual space around me will move. Okay? That also seems fine, but after a point of time, you will actually experience something called simulation sickness, right? It's because your brain is telling you that you are moving, but your body is not actually moving, right? So there is a tension between these two things. So you will actually develop the simulation sickness in the second method. Okay, so both of these methods have their own limitations. That is, in the first method, it looks natural. Only when you are walking, the scene is being updated. As you are walking, the scene is being updated. But the limitation is your physical space need not be as large as the virtual space. So you are limited. You can't go further. It's like you have to go onto the road and continue walking. Right? That's the only way in which you explore large virtual spaces. But that's not possible. The second method is not limited by space. You can explore as much space as you want by just sitting where you are, but it is not natural. Because of this unnaturality, you are having some side effects. Okay, so there is a third method. The third method is teleporting. Teleporting means disappearing at one point, appearing at another point. Okay, so it's like suppose I'm in this room, I want to see the next room, or I want to see maybe your hostel. Rather than me walking all the way from here to your hostel, or rather than me scrolling through joystick all the way from here to hostel, all I will do is, it's like a hyperlink, jump to the hostel. So my environment will automatically change. It's like I disappeared from here, I suddenly appeared in the hostel. Okay, so that is called teleportation. So that is a slightly better intermediate way between the two ways, rather than physically moving or not moving at all. Okay, so you're teleporting, so that does not really cause this hallucination or this disturbing effect which the second method causes. Okay, so it's like you just jump there, now you walk around. So you are in this room, you walk around naturally. Okay, now you are in some other room, you walk there naturally. So each space in itself is small, so you can walk in that small space, but you first need to go to that space, so you just directly jump into that space. So that is called teleportation. Okay, so these are the three methods we will see. We will just focus on teleportation, we will not worry about the first two methods. Okay, but for that, before we do that, you need to sort of set up the room. That is, you need to put some obstacles in the room. So we will just move within the room, we will teleport from this point, directly we'll jump to some other point, then to some other point, then to some other point. We will do that. But for that, you need to set up the room. You need to set up some objects in the room. You need to set up some obstacles in the room. You need to set up various things in the room. Okay. So you just need to go to that link. Just to see how to set up the room. So before next lecture, do this and come. Yeah, you basically sort of need to set up, I mean, it may not be exactly like this, but more or less like this. All these objects are present in the library project window. You place a table, you place a sofa, you place a table towards this wall, you place a table towards that wall and put a TV on that. You place a chimney in that corner, you place a mirror this side. Okay, all these things. So I'll place a few things and then you can place the remaining things later. So first let's okay. Okay. So let me hide this camera as well as these lights. They are too obstructing. So this XR rig, this is the main camera. So let me hide this, and then these two lights, this light 1, light 2. I'll just hide them. Okay, so now the room is clean. It's easy for me. So now what I will do, I'll first place a mirror on this wall. Okay, so course library, prefabs, mirrors. So two kinds of mirrors, one with black border, one with brown border. It doesn't, they're not, they're looking the same to me. So drag them into the scene, drag one of them into the scene, place it somewhere. Now you need to rotate it, right? So should rotate it. Let me see. Still, you should still rotate it. Okay. In case you are not sure, you just change the rotation angle here. This is minus 89.88. So it should be minus 90. Okay. Just type minus 90 there. That's it. Now it's exact. And for you to be sure, you just look at it from a different angle. Go outside of the room. Look at it from this side as well as this side. This is coming slightly out of the room. Okay, so bring it, so move it slightly into the room. Okay, now let's see it again. Still it is slightly out of the room, so let's move it inside. Oh, it's not outside then. Okay. Yeah, it seems fine. Okay, now you see there is a camera on the mirror. Why? This mirror will actually act like a mirror. Whatever is there in front of it, it will be shown in the mirror. So how is that possible? It's because the mirror itself has a camera fitted to it. And whatever is in this camera view, that you can see here, right? Because we fitted the mirror on this wall, it is showing this side of the room. Okay, so let's hide this mirror also. So hide this camera, not the mirror. Yeah, now it's more clear. And what it is doing, so whatever is there in the camera view, that is an image, right? It is sort of pasting that image onto the mirror. So that's what it is doing, right? So that's why it is being updated. So there is a material, I mean there are materials also, textures, materials, etc., which we may see later. So it has a material, it is pasting an image onto this material. So that's what it is doing. So whatever image is being seen by the camera, it is pasting that image onto the material, mirror material. Okay, so actually let me make this mirror a little larger, scale, or I can just click here, I can just increase this. Okay, this is fine. Yeah, all right. Okay, so we placed a mirror, and let's then place a hook to keep some objects like hats, etc. Okay. Okay, so let's see, it's fitting. Okay, fine. And then let's place so this side, let's place a chimney, fireplace. So let's just place it here and then rotate it. Let's see, Here it's sort of fine, but here it's too far from the wall. Okay, now let's see again. Okay, seems fine. Yeah, seems fine. And then let's place let's place a table here and a TV over that, and then you do the remaining. Tables. Yeah, so let's place this table. Okay, so one way is actually rotating it. Another simple way is you just type the rotation angle here. Let's say 90 degrees. It can be 90 or minus 90. You just check. In this case, it is both are same because it's hollow from both the sides. And is it on the floor? Yeah, seems fine. Yeah, it's on the floor only. But is it to the wall? No, it's not to the wall. So let me push it. Okay, now let's place a TV over that. Televisions, TV with stand. Okay, again this needs to be rotated, so let's say 90. Yeah, fine. Is it on the stand? No, it's not on the stand, so move it back and also move it a little down. Okay, yeah, and so on. Okay, move it a little up. So place a sofa, carpet, all those things, place these obstacles, and we will look at locomotion in the next lecture. Okay, yeah, so let's stop here.